Thank you everyone for joining us today. Welcome to our very first student panel of this series we have. So we have 4 panels coming up. This is the very first one, and this panel is really exciting because it's about one of the most common themed and common asked questions that you probably heard of as a high school student. And when I remember when I was back in the day when I was in high school, I used to think about it all the time. What would it like to be a university student? So today our goal is just that. Our panel's our theme is basically transitioning from high school to university. And we're going to make sure that it's a big leap going from high school to university. There's a lot of lifestyle changes. There's a lot of changes on how you deal with different things, choosing your courses, meeting new people, and just being in a new place overall for some of you, or just having a different environment for yourself. So it's going to be a very interesting time. And our goal for today is to help you better understand what university is like and provide you some really insightful information that you can use to prepare for exciting and adventurous journey as a university student. So really looking forward to it. But before we start our event and our student panel, which I'm very excited about, I would like to acknowledge that our UBC's Vancouver campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And our UBC's Okanagan campus is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan Nation and their people. I personally, a little bit about myself, I'm Romel, student recruiter advisor at UBC. I personally came to Canada as an international student at the age of 17. Surprise, I graduated from UBC as well. So definitely UBC is something has been a part of my life since I was 17. So I came here when I was 17. I did not know much about Indigenous land or culture, which is normal, right? So where I come from, I never even knew what those words meant or what that culture meant. So, but when I came here, I have understood it over time and I truly believe that it's our duty to learn more about the culture and the history of people on whose land we live. So one of the best ways and most entertaining ways I've found to do that is I love reading books. So I've read a few books and reading articles, or if you're not the reading type, maybe watching some amazing movies and videos that are out there on YouTube, Netflix, Amazon, wherever you get your movies from. So there's some great way for you to get some more knowledge and become more conscious and aware about this procedure. And all for UBC events, we start off our presentation with the land acknowledgement to showcase that we want to be conscious and aware of the past, present, and the future. Again, with that, I am going to introduce our moderator and our star and the team of stars actually for today's panel. I'll pass it on to our moderator, Dylan, and he's going to introduce himself.
Ramil, thank you so much. And good morning, afternoon, and evening, my friends from quite literally around the world. As Ramil had just said, my name is Dylan. My preferred pronouns are he, him, his, and I am a current third-year student here at UBC's Okanagan campus, pursuing a Bachelor's of Science degree and double majoring in medical molecular biochemistry and political theory. So quite literally the best of both worlds. If you have questions about sciences or arts, you can let me know. But elsewise, I am originally an uninvited guest on the ancestral, traditional, and unceded territories of the Duwamish, Coast Salish, and Muckleshoot people of Seattle, Washington. Though in my first year, moved my way up from Seattle to Kelowna, the ancestral, traditional, and unceded territories of the Syilx Okanagan people. And I'm joining you each today from that same territory as well, where learning has taken place for many years before, and as we are to learn today, we'll continue learning as well following our presence here. With that being said, you all are joining us from many places, near and far, and to take a moment and to create that space to reflect upon and recognize those traditional caretakers as well. So I'm so excited for today's panel. I'll get some more as to what the structure is going to be like in just a moment, but we have, as Ramil just said, an all-star panel joining you all today. So at this time, I'd like to pass on over to Elena to introduce themselves and pass it on down the line.
Hello, everybody. My name is Elena. I'm a fourth-year human kinetics student or health and exercise science student on the Okanagan campus, currently coming to you from the ancestral, traditional, and unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx Nation and their peoples. I'm very excited to talk to you today. I'm from Chilliwack, BC, so I saw a lot of people from that lower mainland, Metro Vancouver area. I know all about it. So nice to see some familiar areas here. And I'm excited to meet all of you and get to talk to you a bit today. And I'll hand it on over to Laura.
Hi everyone, so my name is Laura Ryder. I am a fourth year management student specializing in accounting. I'm joining you today from the unceded territory of the Silks Okanagan people like Elena and Dylan. And I am originally from North Vancouver, BC. I've seen a couple Vancouver people in there, so I'm super excited to talk to you all today. And with that, I'll pass it on to Colby.
Hi everyone, I'm Colby. I'm a fourth year student doing a Bachelor of Arts on the Vancouver campus. I'm in the Honors English Literature program and doing a minor in Russian. And I'm joining you today from the traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people nations in downtown Vancouver. And I grew up in Prince George. My family lives in Kamloops now, so kind of been all over BC for everyone from all around the province. And I will pass it on now to Dominique.
Awesome, thank you, Colby. Hello, everyone. My name is Dominique or Dom, and my pronouns are she or they. I do have mixed ancestry of Black, White, and Métis descent. I grew up in Squamish and now currently live in Vancouver, so that means I'm coming to you all virtually from the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I'm currently in my third year here at UBC Vancouver's campus, studying psychology, interpersonal development, and English, just a little bit of everything through the Faculty of Arts. And I will pass it back to Dylan to continue our conversation.
Oh, wonderful, my friends. So sorry, everyone. I am getting over a little bit of a head cold, but that's no trouble if you hear me just coughing or sniffling in the background. But thank you so much, my all-star panelists, for introducing yourselves. Friends, how today is going to work is that today is all about you. So there have been many questions with regards to that transition from high school to university. And in full transparency, I myself was very daunted in that exact same period of life, in that exact same transition. I had questions as to what the differences were. How was I going to find community? What were the resources available to me like? And where could I find support? And so today we're going to be answering all of those questions and many more. There will be two different sections for today's student panel. There will be a structured portion as well as a more so informal portion where you all will be able to submit your questions for us to answer. So for the structured portion, the first portion of today's student panel, we have 10 brilliant questions that kind of regard the entirety of the transition from high school to university. And we're going to gain the incredible diverse perspectives of our student panelists today. But then for that second half later on, we're going to be asking you all to use a Slido, which is a feature that we'll explain more in a little bit, to submit questions for us to be able to answer. So don't ask your questions just yet. Take a piece of paper, a pen, and write them down, but don't forget them, because while we are not experts in admissions nor any of those technical aspects, we are experts in student experience. And we are delighted to be able to answer any of those questions you may have about what it's like to be a UBC student. All right, how's everyone feeling? Pretty good? Excited? Student panelists, how are you feeling? Super excited, super good? 2 thumbs up? Oh, look at that. That sounds fantastic. All right, friends. So we're going to just get started with our very first question today. So my friends, my student panelists, I pose to you all the first question. What would you say, and in your humble opinion, is the greatest difference between high school and university? Feel free to use that raise hand option there. Yeah, Laura, right off the gate.
Yeah, I'd love to answer that question. So for me, I think the biggest difference between high school and university was definitely the structure. University definitely is not as structured as high school. High school is very like, you show up, it's 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. You go to all your classes all with that one period of the day, then you go home, you study, eat dinner, kind of just have a chill time. Whereas university, it's more kind of like you have a class at 9 a.m. till 10:30, you have maybe a 3-hour break, then you have another class and then a break. So it's kind of more scattered. You kind of have to do your homework outside of class, and you won't have a teacher to stay on top of you as much. So it's a little bit more responsibility, but honestly, after a while, you definitely get used to it. For me, it was a little bit of a change at first, but honestly, kind of once you get into the rhythm of it, you kind of get the hang of it and it all works out. It's all about kind of finding patterns on where you can study, take breaks, and what works for you, because everyone has different schedules. Everyone has different kind of times where they study and operate better. Like personally for me, I am not a morning person. I'm very much a night person. I like to kind of do most of my studying at the end of the day. So I'll find time to do that. So it's all about kind of creating a schedule for yourself that makes it a lot easier for your transition and to kind of keep you on top of things. So maybe you get up at 8 a.m., eat breakfast, you go to class from 9:30 till 12, lunch, studying, you keep going. Yeah, yeah, that's just what I think is the biggest difference. So unless anyone else has anything to add on to that, I'll pass it back on to Dylan.
That was absolutely brilliant, Laura. Thank you so much. And I completely agree. It is about finding that routine, finding that identity within the community. There are a lot of opportunities to be able to continue your learning outside of the classroom. There are also many opportunities for extracurricular work or extracurricular activities, whether that's clubs or elsewise. So I've found that a lot of my time throughout the day, those in between awkward periods between classes are oftentimes filled with engaging with club activities or student ambassador jobs and whatnot. And there's a lot of opportunities to use your time most particular to you and to align that available time with your passions. I think that's one of the beauties of the university experience, as well as that independence and being able to choose that routine. But thank you so much for that contribution, Laura. Absolutely wonderful. My friends, is there anything else that anyone would like to add to that? Again, by all means, feel free to use the raise hand. No? Seeing some head shakes? No trouble. Let's move on to the second question. So, my friends, how did you find your community upon transitioning from high school to university? And in my humble opinion, I find this to be the most important question out of all of our questions. So I'm actually going to ask that everyone contributes a thought to this, but we're going to start off right away with Elena, and then whoever would like to go next can raise their hand afterwards as well. But Elena, the floor is yours.
Cool. I love this question because I think that everybody's answer is going to be completely different because everyone has their own little communities and they maybe overlap or synchronize with one another, but to each person, it is unique and individualized. So I found my community in my second semester of my first year when I became a student ambassador. That's really when I started making a ton of friends. I started making friends kind of in my residence, so I really just felt like I didn't really fit in anywhere. And then I became a student ambassador and I had this great job and all these people that had the same interests. And though they were a little bit different, we all just really liked being a student. We all really liked talking about our campus and being together, and we became a really fun group of people to be around. And that's kind of how I started making my community. And from there, I started going to events run by my student association and made friends within my program. And so I had kind of two little overlapping communities. I had a community of my work friends, I had a community of my school friends, and then I had a kind of community outside of school altogether that was made up of my family that lives in Kelowna. And so that's kind of how I navigated my way through university. Pardon me, I'm losing my voice, but that's kind of how I did it. But I'm sure that maybe Dominique has a different way of how she did it.
You read my mind. I was like just about to click the raise hand function. Yeah, in my first year, I found my community through this is the weirdest story, through my high school best friends, childhood best friends. So we never met. My best friend's by the way, she also goes to UBC Vancouver. And I was like, okay. So we text each other and she's like, hey, I'm going to this event that's happening. Come with me. So she came, I went with her, we went to this event, and that's how I found my on-campus community. I'm forever grateful for her, even though we both went our separate ways. I still just always thank her for bringing her to my community there. But I also found my on-campus community through attending the weekly lunches hosted at the Longhouse for Indigenous students. Definitely a great way there, and through there, I got closer with my coworker Cece, who has the exact same job as me. And then with COVID, it has been hard, but having those communities that still went throughout the pandemic has definitely been a blessing in disguise, I guess. But I'll hand it over to Laura.
Yeah, mine's actually kind of similar to Elena's, but I first met my group kind of going in. I got really involved in going to all the kind of opening mixers when you first come to campus. So I kind of was walking around, and the first kind of couple people I went to, I ended up kind of clicking with them instantly. So I kind of just hung out with them, and then through them, I definitely met a lot more people, which kind of helped me create kind of my three little circles. I met the people that I kind of had friends with in residence, the people I met through those mixers that were from different faculties, which are super nice. And then I met some other people in my classes. So in my faculty management, it's very kind of interactive. You sit down, the teachers put you in project groups, and you're with those students for a lot of the year. And within those groups, I found one of my best friends, and honestly, going through all those, I was able to find my community and the people that I really kind of bonded with that I'm still friends with today. So yeah, getting involved really helped me find who I was friends with. What about you, Colby?
Yeah, sorry for some background noise because my cat is eating, not eating, he's tearing apart a shopping bag. But for me, I think this is definitely one of the biggest challenges of starting university, especially at such a big school, and especially for me because in first year I was taking a lot of different classes, so I didn't necessarily have the same people in all of my classes. So a way that as I've moved through my degree, I have found more of a community is getting involved, very involved with my program. Becoming a part of, for me, the English Students Association and also the English Undergraduate Journal. But a lot of different programs have their own associations and journals that you can get involved in. And for me, that's been a really great way to meet people who are really passionate about the same things that I am, and also to just have a common goal that you're working towards, I think is like a really great way to bond with people and form closer connections with them. And then also, I guess this is kind of advice as well as how I found community, is that it's really easy to feel like everyone else has already found their community and you're the only one who feels like you don't belong as much, or who feels lonely. But you really just have to push through that and know that you're not the only one, and that you can be the person who will reach out to someone else and ask them to hang out or to study together or something like that. And everyone feels nervous about that, but you can be the one to start to make a change and form your own community.
Oh, most certainly. Friends, those were some brilliant contributions. Thank you so much. And Colby, just to go back to your point as well, I completely agree. I think there was one word in particular that I definitely want to draw some emphasis to, and that's passion. All of the students at UBC and other post-secondary institutions are all joining from varying backgrounds and varying perspectives, and yet they each have particular passions in mind. They all have things with which are core to their being that make up their character, and they'll pursue those wholeheartedly in university because the resources are available. And so I found that in that transition from high school to university, you get to meet more folks that share those similar passions, whether that's being active agents for change or elsewise. There are folks with similar academic aspirations, and it creates an incredible community, a really intimate, supportive community. And so whilst that transition may seem daunting, as Colby so eloquently put, everybody is in the exact same boat. And that's okay, because you'll find your community as well. And as Colby mentioned, you could be that one that reaches across the table and extends that hand of friendship, and you never know where it might take you. For myself, I was in my first year residence, and I had my laundry in the laundry machine, but I forgot my student card and I wasn't able to pay for laundry, and I was terrified. I was freaking out. And I asked the person next door if I could borrow their funds and if I could later transfer some to you. And that person later became my best friend, and he introduced me to his community. And from there, I was able to broaden my community as well. But like Elena and Laura, my community also came from student ambassadorship and the other extracurriculars that I involved myself with, as they were particular passions of mine. So stay true to you, and you'll always find your community, my friends. They're out there. It's okay. Oh, but wonderful contributions, everyone. Thank you all so much for that, especially because that question, I'm almost certain, is quite relevant to every single person joining us today. But for our next question, it kind of regards, as Colby had mentioned, a little bit of that advice feature. But what did you wish you knew before going into university? Yeah, Colby, over to you.
Yeah, so this is somewhat related to what I was just saying, but for me, and a lot of you might feel the same way, I felt like a lot of like my high school teachers, my friends, the older students that I knew, family members, really, really emphasized how difficult university was, and just a sort of culture of like having to work all the time and pulling all-nighters and things like that. And that's sort of what you had to do just to sort of scrape by. And so going into university, I was really academically concerned about just staying on top of things. And I felt like I just had to do schoolwork all the time to stay on top of it. And so I feel like I got a bit too wrapped up in that and didn't make enough time for balance. And so what I wish I knew was to make time for balance, because ultimately that will pay off in every area of your life. So for me, I try to always take Saturdays off from schoolwork completely, which the difficult thing is that you are never really like done everything. There's always something else you could be working on. And so to be aware of that and still take time for yourself, and for self-care and exercise and spending time with friends, things like that. It can feel like you don't have time for that, but I would wish I had known to just do it anyways, because it does pay off, and you'll just be more focused on your academics when you do them, if you're taking time also to do other things and look after yourself.
Absolutely. Balance is absolutely so necessary in the university experience. It's important to remember, friends, that the university will be both a living environment as well as a learning environment. So while you will be developing yourself as a scholar and as an academic, it's important too to give back to yourself and make sure you're developing yourself as an individual and as a character, because together that creates the holistic image as to who you are. And it's important to engage with those passions, explore the available resources, and be able to just make that time available to get back to you. Make sure that you are addressing that self-care. I love that, Kobe. Thank you so much. Friends, anything else that you wish you knew prior to going into university? Elsewise, we can move on to the next question. Seeing no hands, I'll move on over to the next question. So with so many options for majors and courses and whatnot, how did you choose your particular major and your particular courses? And what academic resources are available to students when transitioning from that high school environment to the university environment? So I open up the floor now. All right, Dom, right out the gate. I love it. Over to you.
Thank you, Dylan. Yeah, so in my first year, kind of in that like June, so like I was still in high school at this point, I had accepted my UBC offer, and they were saying, hey, you have to start choosing your courses. I'm like, what? Okay, so I remember going through the website with my new login. I pretty much went through the whole list of courses, A to Z, took note of all the classes that interested me, just because I wanted all of the different experiences, because I just wanted to experience everything that I could at UBC. I also had to take note that I was also in first year with no prior experience, so that also slimmed down the list of things that I was interested in, and that's how I chose my courses. I did go way too ham in first year. I think I took 6 direct courses through UBC and the 2 external UBC courses. So that was definitely a learning opportunity for myself, was understanding what balance was. Definitely off of what Kobe said earlier. I just was like, I need to do so much work. I need to do good in university, and I did put like friends and that balance on the back burner. Now I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm trying to pass that knowledge on to all y'all. You don't have to take too much onto your plate. University will always be here, and it's okay if you don't take those 4 years. Also, through my job now, you don't have to go through the courses A to Z. There's actually a part of the UBC website that you can put in your interests and explore what degree actually fits you best, as well as the courses you could take that fits what you're interested in. And as well for Indigenous students in arts, which would be me, there is an office called ASA, or Arts Indigenous Student Advising, where they help you with anything that relates to academic resources, as well as anything that might be coming up for you as a student, as well as that for general students, there is just the arts advising offices that does the exact same thing, just without an Indigenous focus. But yeah, I'll hand it back over to you, Dylan.
Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you so much, Dom, not only for your own personal insights and experiences, but then also for those university resources available. I've found that one of the greatest trends that always emerges whenever we're doing student panels is how incredible the resources are available for students. If you ever have a question about anything, especially because this transition from high school to university can be daunting, it can be a tad scary. It was for me. There's always somebody available at UBC available to help you. All you have to do is reach out and ask. Now, I had a similar kind of situation to you, Dom, in my first year. I had been accepted to UBC, and I accepted my offer of admission, and I was so excited, so jazzed. But when it came time to selecting my courses, I was just overwhelmed with the amount of options available. So I made a time to meet with an academic advisor, and they were there and eager and keen to help. And so I met with them. I actually met with them while I was off duty. I was working as a lifeguard in San Diego that summer. So I was like in like the lifeguard like headquarters, and I was like, oh, how do I sign up for classes? I'm so nervous. And they did a wonderful job of being able to answer all questions that I had, as well as to make sure that I felt most prepared for my first year of university here at UBC Okanagan. And for that, I am ever grateful. But friends, anybody else, any other fascinating insights as to how you chose your particular major, your courses? I know for me, I chose my major and my courses based upon my passions and interests. In high school, I was really fond of political science as well as biochemistry, and I honestly couldn't decide when it came to university. So in my second year, I decided, you know what, I'm going to declare my double major, and I'm going to pursue this just because it is a particular passion of mine. It adds on an additional year, yes, so I'll be doing 5 years, but it's worth it for me, and it's proved all the difference. And anything else? Any other passions? Seeing none, let's move on to the next question. So, high school and university are entirely different. And Colby's done a wonderful job of speaking to something that they wish they had known in advance. And that was that, whilst university is highly difficult, there is an opportunity to balance and maintain that work-life balance. But we haven't actually spoken too much about the academics just yet. So how did you adapt your study habits from high school to university? What were a few of the best practices you adopted for academic success? I'll open it up to the floor. Anybody interested? By all means, feel free to raise a hand. Dom, yes, over to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I found that the switch from UBC from high school was a bit of a shock to the system, but I do feel like I caught on pretty quickly. I think this is just for everyone, just that switch. I believe it is Lena that said earlier, just about like, that was a lot. It's okay. Everyone feels overwhelmed. And I found that blocking out times during the day, whether it's before your classes or after your classes, to get those readings and homeworks done helped a lot. One thing I did start this past year that has definitely helped me a lot is writing down to-do lists. So either it's like 9 to 10 a.m. I'm doing this, 10 to 11 I take a break, and then 12 to 1 I have lunch, something like that. I definitely find that helps me and my stress level during midterms and final seasons a lot. It makes it a lot easier. Or you just have a checklist. Oh, I just want to get this one reading done, and you just get to check it up, or just rip up the paper after. It's just very satisfying, especially when you're a stressed student. And then also, as we've just kind of been saying, balance is key, as well as what Colby said. It's okay if you can't get everything off your plate. It's okay that you leave some stuff done. It's just pretty much balance. You just need to make sure you get the best outcome for you as a university student and as a person. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say, Dylan.
Oh, Dom, I loved it. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for those brilliant insights. Again, that theme of balance, Kobe to Dom and everything in between, it was wonderful. Thank you so much for that. My friends, any other study habits, best practices? Let's ask for one more contribution. Best practices, my friends. I can speak to my best practices if you'd like, but I want to hear from you all. Any particular best practices for studying? Anything at all? While you all think about your best practices, I'll speak to my best practices. So absolutely, to-do lists are so key. I love to-do lists. I also love sticky notes. I have so many sticky notes. It's kind of bad, but it's awesome. I just put sticky notes all over my walls and all over my apartment. They remind me to do things. They remind me about deadlines, and they just remind me of fun little things that I wanted to do eventually. And so I love sticky notes. They come so much. I always have like a pack in my pocket or so that I could just take note of so I don't forget for a later date. But then also making sure that I'm allocating like particular days for working. I'm personally of the type that likes to get all of my work done at the same time. So I'll like reserve particular either chunks of time, like Dom was talking about, or whole days where I just sit down and I say, okay, while I am going to take breaks throughout this day, this is my day to get back to me and my academics. I host a few different jobs around campus, and so it can be hard to balance that, the different work obligations to academic obligations at time. But I've oftentimes found that if I'm indulging myself wholly into one particular activity, then I'm able to best balance my work style, and that works best for me. With that being said, you each are different, and we each have different study habits and skills, different characters that may make it different for you. So honestly, the best practice that I have is to explore those study habits, be able to reflect upon them, engage with different types of study habits. We do have advisors present on UBC Okanagan's campus, resources available with our student learning hub that will help you learn and practice different study habits so that you can find what works best for you, because you are unique. Now, with that being said, I'm going to pass it on over to Laura to talk about their best practices.
Yeah, my practices are very similar to both Dylan and Dom's. But one thing I found really helpful for me is sometimes during like final season or midterm season, it can get pretty stressful. I started off as being someone who loved to study in my room, but sometimes studying in your room when you're kind of stressed, you do everything in your room. You sleep, you watch TV, you have your breaks, and all of that. So sometimes you want to be able to take that kind of stressful environment out of the space where you have your relaxing environment. So one thing that I did that really helped me, and it was an amazing thing, was I separated my study spaces. I found a space on campus that I was able to study in, and I sat there every single day. It was one of those things where if someone wanted to find me, I'd always be in the exact same seat in the library every single day. But I could go there, I could study, and then I'd come back and I'd have my stress-free environment. Sometimes that doesn't always work for everyone. Sometimes people love to just be in their room and that be just their only space, and going out is their safe space. But that's personally what worked for me. And I think if you think it will work for you, I would definitely recommend trying it. And I'll pass it back to Dylan.
Oh, I love that, Laura. Absolutely. Separate those spaces, my friends. It contributes to that balance. It also contributes to just a better mental well-being as well. I was told from day one, never do work in bed. And I haven't yet done work in bed. And I'm very thankful for that, because you should separate your lives, your work from your school, from your personal self, the time that you take to develop who you are as an individual, as a character. Laura, brilliant advice, wonderful best practice. Thank you so much. Are there any other best practices, my friends, or shall we move on to the next question of our structured student panel? I think we're moving on to the next question. All right, then. So, my friends, a question for you all. What's been your most favorite activity throughout university? And I'll open that up to the board. Elena, by all means, take it away, and then we'll have another person to join in. So get thinking about those favorite activities, my friends.
All right, perfect. So I like to think about this in a way that kind of covers all the bases. So in my first year of university, if I'm thinking about like campus activity, white t-shirt party was probably the best thing that we did. I don't know if they have it on the Vancouver campus, but I know for sure it's an Okanagan thing that's run by our student union. And it's for all the first years. It's mostly a first year event. They all get a white t-shirt that says like SUO or whatever it says on it. And you get a black Sharpie. And then you go to this outdoor concert and you sign everybody's shirts. And it's done in September when it's still warm in the Okanagan. And it gives you an opportunity to make a ton of friends. I had a campus tour today, and I was telling somebody about how actually one of my friends signed my shirt, but I didn't even know them at the time. They just signed my shirt and moved on, and now we're friends. And I just think it's so funny that like that's something that happens. And so that was something that was really fun and that I looked forward to in my first year. But something that's not necessarily a campus activity, but a little bit different. Through my university degree, I have loved finding new coffee shops to study at. It has been one of my favorite little pastimes, one of my favorite little hobbies is taking a bus to downtown Kelowna, because I love it there, and finding a new spot to study and get coffee and just enjoy myself and be away from campus for a little bit while still doing some school and still being productive. And that has been really fun as well. And on top of that too, just going downtown in general. When the weather was really warm, I was in Kelowna throughout the summer this year. I was busing downtown every morning, and I would get coffee at a new coffee shop, and I'd go to the beach because the beach was right there. And so that's some of my favorite things that I've done throughout school. And there's many, many more, but those are just some of the highlights.
Well, thank you for sharing those highlights, Elena, and I could not agree more. As a Seattle native myself, I absolutely adore my coffee, and I love to be able to explore the different coffee shops around Kelowna as well. Colby, over to you.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier the English undergraduate journal. So that's probably I might get to some other things later, but for now, that's my favorite activity that I've been involved in on campus. So having the opportunity, so I was involved for 2 years as an editor, and currently I'm co-editor-in-chief. So one great thing about being co-editor-in-chief is that I've grown really close to my fellow editor-in-chief over our time this year working on it together. And it's really rewarding to be able to provide a platform for students to share their work and to improve their work, and just create a showcase for that. Also gaining valuable skills in like leadership, organizational skills, editing, and things like that. And then also being involved in something where you are communicating with your department. So for me, the English department, and getting involved in that way in your program is really beneficial for making connections within your department, within your program, which can lead to things like professors being able to provide reference letters. And for me, it has also led to receiving a lot of scholarships that were in part because I knew people in the department and they knew me and they saw how involved and passionate I was. And so on a number of levels, it's been a really rewarding and valuable experience over the past few years. And I'm looking forward next year when I'm not involved with it and I can actually submit my work to it, because I haven't been able to.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm sure the UBC community is excited to read your brilliant work. But thank you so much for sharing, Colby. And I could not agree more. It's about broadening your horizons, friends. You might not necessarily know what your passions are just at this moment, or perhaps you have some sort of idea. But so long as you put yourself out there and engage with those activities, you may very well find a favorite activity. It's all about trying. And university is a brilliant, perfect, safe environment to do that, to try, to change, to explore, and to evolve oneself and your personal interests and passions. All right, thank you so much, friends, for those brilliant inputs. Let's go on over to our next question then. So, as a university student, how do you maintain a balance between academics, extracurriculars, and life in general? So again, that reoccurring theme of balance, and at this point, I'll open it up to the floor. Any keen takers? Anyone interested? Elena, by all means, take it away, my friend.
You guys are hearing a lot of my voice right now. Hopefully that's okay. But I really like this question because I have really been in all three kind of areas. I've been really heavily involved in my academics. I've worked throughout school, and I've really tried to have a personal life at the same time. And balancing three different worlds is really hard if you don't know how. And so my biggest piece of advice is know when too much is too much. Know your limits, really cliche, know your limits, stay within it, really know what you can handle, and do your best to stay within that. Because what's really important too is, in order to succeed as a student, to succeed in having a personal life and, you know, a professional life, you have to be at a level where you can be mentally well in order to succeed anywhere else. And if you're getting to a point where you really feel like it's taking a toll on yourself, on your body, where when you're going to bed at night, you're crashing rather than actually winding down and going to sleep, you're not necessarily taking care of yourself, and you're going to be less likely to succeed later on. So it took me a while to learn when too much was too much, but once you do, it's a whole different ball game. So that's probably my biggest piece of advice for that. And also set aside times, kind of like study habits. Set aside a time to study, set aside a time even just for yourself, even if it's one day in the week, maybe it's Sunday, a time for yourself to do something nice for yourself and take care of your own well-being, and schedule in times to do stuff for maybe your professional life, or whatever else you might have going on. That's super, super helpful as well. And with that too, the last thing I'll say is ask for help if you need help, in whatever way the word help means, whether it's talking to somebody, whether it's reaching out to your superior and asking for some help, or just being transparent with your professors about what you're able to handle. I promise you, the worst somebody can say is that they can't accommodate what you need, but most often they'll be able to help you. So really ask for help if you feel like you need it. Don't be afraid of it. That's why the university has resources for you. That's why they're there. Yeah.
I love it, Elena. Thank you so much. The resources are there. All you have to do is take that first step and ask for them. All right, my friends. So with that, we're on to our next question. We have just a few more questions for all you folks joining us today, and then we're going to be moving into our informal section where you all will be able to submit your own personal questions about student experience, about that transition from high school to college, and you all will be able to gain some insights from us, the student panelists today. But with that being said, let's move on to our next question of the day. And now, friends, what opportunities are available for students to gain work experience on campus? Oh, Colby, right? All right, I love it.
Yeah, so here's where I can talk about my actual favorite thing I've been involved with on campus, which is the arts co-op program. And so I'll talk a bit about that and also about the work learn program. So I'll try and make it quick, but I do think that work experience is equally valuable to academics and is something that everyone should try to incorporate into their university experience. And it also helps you, the skills you build in that can transfer to your academics and vice versa. And yeah, it's just a good thing to do. So first of all, the co-op program, I'm an arts co-op, but there are co-op programs for many other faculties like science, engineering, the Sauder School of Business at UBC Vancouver. And essentially how it works is you apply to the program and then you'll complete a number of work terms alongside your degree. So these will be terms when you're not necessarily taking any classes and you're just working full time. And so this was a really valuable experience for me in terms of gaining practice and learning how to write effective job applications and also how to interview for jobs effectively. And just to give you an idea of the types of positions, at least in arts co-op, so I worked for my first term as a summer camp instructor at a museum in New Westminster. And then my second and third terms were as a junior analyst, marketing and communications with Global Affairs Canada, based out of Ottawa. So there's a really wide variety of positions, government and private and nonprofit. So just whatever you're interested in, you can find something. And if you don't know what you're interested in, then you can try a bunch of different things to see what you do and don't like. And then work learn. So last year I had a work learn position as communications assistant with the Faculty of Dentistry. And currently I'm a communications coordinator for the Office of the Provost and Vice President Academic at UBC Vancouver. So work learn positions, there are like hundreds of them. It can be a bit overwhelming to look at first. And there are in every area from like research assistant in a lab for more scientific fields to lots of like marketing, communications, event coordination, positions like that for more art students, administrative positions. So lots of positions available. And those will be either 10 hours a week over the course of the school year or 20 hours a week for a summer position. And so the great thing about work learn positions is, first of all, you're gaining really relevant work experience that will be useful in the future. And they are also, because they're through the university and there's a maximum of 10 hours a week during the school year. So the employers know that you're a student and they're going to be very understanding of that and willing to work around your academic needs to make sure that you're able to prioritize academics while also having a job and gaining that valuable experience. So those are two of the ways that students can gain work experience that I think are really valuable.
Oh, sorry, friends. I stopped my video and said unmuting myself. But thank you so much, Colby, for those wonderful inputs, wonderful insights, wonderful lived experiences. My favorite way to get involved on campus with some sort of work opportunity, as well as my personal favorite activity so far that I've done throughout my UBC experience, has been this one right here, to be a student ambassador. It's been a true joy to be able to reach out to prospective students such as yourselves, admitted students such as yourselves, to be able to share what I love most about our brilliant university and to help you all on your journey over to the UBC as well. So it's been a true joy. It's been my absolute pleasure. And it's one of the many ways also, as Colby had already articulated, of being able to gain not only work experience, but then also work on campus as well. All right, with that, my friends, we're gonna be moving on to our very last question of the day. And I'm gonna open this one up to everybody. So, my friends, what is one piece of advice that you would offer a newly admitted UBC student? Would anyone care to start us off? Oh, everyone, right off the gate. All right, we're gonna go Elena, then Dom, then Colby, then Laura.
All right. I really like this question. Also, a lot, I say this with everyone I answer, but I really like this one. I would probably say, normally I say, oh, go to class, because that is a good piece of advice. Go to class because it does help you. I'll throw that in there a little bit. But my biggest piece of advice is it's okay to not know, and it's okay to change your mind, and it's okay for things to be hard. It's okay is the moral of the story. Things might be difficult when you get to university, and that's okay. For me, I was one of those students, so annoying in high school, where I was just good at being able to do school. I was just able to do that. And I did my homework and I would hand it in. I got really good grades. Then I got to university and all of a sudden everything was hard and my world was over. It just done. The world was ending and everything was awful, awful, awful. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And I realized was talking to my parents and I was freaking out and I was like, I can't do it. And they said, just take a breath. It's okay. And I went, yeah, it's okay. And then I realized that the school has resources to help you when you feel like you're drowning, when you feel like you don't know anything, when you feel like you can't make friends, any of that. We have resources to help you. And in any aspect of the word, it's all going to be okay. If you change your mind, change your mind. That's what university is for. Class is hard, class is hard. University is hard, and that's okay. You're not the only person that thinks it's hard. You're not the only person struggling making friends. You're not the only person not knowing. And so that's what I think is important too. You're not alone in whatever you're feeling. It's all going to be okay.
Awesome. Thanks for that advice. I mean, it's also very hard to even just choose one piece of advice. So I have tried my best to just narrow in on one thing. I think someone touched on it a little bit earlier, but do use the professor's office hours is the scariest thing. I'm still trying to do it, but sometimes they do have like pre-COVID, maybe they're going to try to do it more now, but they used to have snacks. That was like, I think the best thing, coffee, tea, anything like that. They'll be like, come to my office hours and like says the location. I'll have tea, snacks, food, anything like that. As well as like, even on Zoom, you get the pets. They also will bring their pets into their office, cats, dogs. There's a lot of different pets. But even if it's just an emotional support, that's always the positive. But pretty kind of getting back on track. It just makes it a big difference when you do introduce yourself to your professors. Just reach out to them at the beginning, say, hi, this is me. Maybe if you do know that you have a little bit of struggles, like, oh, like I can't see that well, could you put the lecture slide size of font from 12 to like 15? Don't think that's going to be an issue, anything like that. They just know your face, know your name. And then later on in the term, if you are struggling a bit more, if you need that extra help, it's so much easier to be like, hey, I'm so-and-so from the beginning of the term. Would you be able to help me with this? Would you be able to give me an extension? Could you re-explain what this is? I know, like, I just messaged my professor, like, stressed out. I'm like, oh my goodness, do I have to write on all 6 of these topics? And like, it was family day weekend. I did not expect a response. My professor responded within 5 minutes. It definitely was like, it took me more than 5 minutes to write that email of just like explaining what I was worrying about, but they were so understanding of everything I was stressed about. And it is just a common UBC student or just university students in general, that stress, the anxiety of being in a class and feeling overwhelmed. But just reach out. It is okay. Even just talking to the person next to you, they can help you explain it as well. And it might be a little less stressful than professors. But yeah, I'll pass it off to maybe Kobe if you want to talk about this. Sorry.
Yeah, so mine is probably kind of cheesy because on the first day of school, Imagine Day, where there's like this pep rally and they talk about how UBC's motto is "Tu m'est," which means it's yours. But like really it is. And the more time goes on, the more that I realize that that really is true. And there are so many different opportunities and things that you can get involved in at UBC. And my advice would just be to make the most of your time in university and all these opportunities that are unique to this time in your life, and just like anything that you think sounds even remotely interesting, like just try it out because you never know what will happen. And also, there's definitely been things where when I started university, I thought, oh, like I would never do that. And as time goes on, I find myself thinking, well, maybe I should try doing that. So an example would be there's this thing at UBC Vancouver. I don't know, maybe they have it at the Okanagan, Storm the Wall, which is about to take place right now. And it's where it's kind of like a triathlon-ish thing. There's like you're in a team and there's a swim, bike, run, and sprint. And then your team scales this 12-foot wall together, like gets over it. And in first year, I was like, I would never do something like that. Like, I just would not do that. And now I'm in fourth year and I was like, you know what? I do want to try that because, like, why not? Like, there's no reason why I can't do it. And, like, just try and let go of your ideas of what you do and don't do. And if something seems interesting, just try it and don't hold yourself back from doing it. And we'll see how that goes when I'm facing the 12-foot wall.
I guess
Sorry, I'll pass it on to Laura. Yeah.
Mine's very similar to Elena's. You're not alone. I went into first year thinking that, okay, I've moved away from home. I'm independent. I don't need my parents anymore. I can do it. I'm all good. Don't do that. I kind of went in and there's a lot of change. It gets stressful. I kind of left it all into myself. I pent it up. I put too much pressure on myself. And I was like, okay, I can't talk to anyone about this. I'm strong. I don't need to kind of tell everyone. I don't need to do all that. But everyone's in the exact same boat. They're probably going through the exact same thing you are. They're stressed. They're scared that they're kind of maybe away from home for the first time. So you can always talk to someone. And if, say, you're not comfortable talking to a friend about it, there's so many resources on campus that you can use. But also talk to your parents. Your parents are probably like nervous that you moved away from home too. And they want to hear from you. My mom would constantly message me being like, hey, how are you? Are you gonna be like, no, I don't need to tell her I'm good. I'm amazing. Like, she can't know that I'm like scared or that like I'm worried that I'm not gonna do well on a midterm tomorrow. But honestly, like kind of in second year, I kind of got over that. And I was like, you know what? I need to call my mom. I don't know how to like properly cook pasta or like, I don't know like what I'm doing. So, and then I talked to her and I realized like, it's okay. And she's there to help me. And she's there to kind of provide like advice. So use those resources that you have available to you. Do it alone because you're just going to end up in a worse position, and everyone is there to support you, whether you may think that they're not. There's always going to be someone there that will help you through it and will find your way. And I'll pass it back to Dylan.
Oh, that was wonderful, friends. Thank you all so much for those little nuggets of wisdom. I'm hopeful that, and I'm confident that many folks in our audience today, that wisdom, that advice resonated with them, and they're going to be able to use that to their hopeful advantage going into their first year of university. And the only piece of advice that I would add on is recognizing that change is inevitable, but change too can be beautiful. It broadens your horizons and you're able to pursue so much more than you would elsewise have ever known existed. Well, with that, my friends, that concludes our structured portion for today's student panel.